Hi, Tammy. This is Dean Butler. I played Almanzo Wilder on Little House on the Prairie, and your friend Diane reached out to me to tell me that you're getting ready to celebrate your 51st birthday. So I'm here to join in that celebration. And Diane tells me that you've both been fans of Little House since you were little girls, that you still watch it all the time, and I, and I understand that you really. I'm told that you really love the episode where Laura and Almanzo kiss for the first time, which is a lot of people's favorite episodes. I have mixed feelings about the episode personally, but I know that it's a favorite of Little House fans. So I have to get past my discomfort over it, but because it obviously has been a source of fun and pleasure for audiences watching the program for years. So I have to be good with that. Little House was such a great experience for me. And I just think back even to the first day showing up on the set to work for the first time on the program. I just remember it was just thrilling for me. Little House at the time was a hugely successful series for NBC, had a massive audience. It was a top 10 show. The people involved in the program were beloved by the audience. It goes without saying that Michael Landon was, in his time, one of the biggest television stars in the world, coming off of his 14 years on Bonanza, and then the first 5 years of Little House. And then if you count the several years that Michael worked before he got involved in Bonanza, Michael had already been on television in the public's eye for 20 years before I came into that situation. So he was just huge. He was a bigger than life character, enormously charismatic, magnetic. If you were in a space with Michael, you knew he was there. There was a power that radiated off of him. If you've ever been in the presence of a highly charismatic individual, you feel their presence. And Michael was one of those people whose presence was always felt in any room he was in. Melissa Gilbert, who was playing Laura, Melissa's another one of those people that has a tremendous amount of personal magnetism and strength about her. There's just this core about her where that she knows that she has something special to offer. I think that's just really clear when you are around Melissa, and that's true to this day. And, candidly, I don't spend a lot of time with Melissa anymore. But those 5 years we spent constantly together were, that was an important time in my life. And, it was a defining time in my life. For Melissa, Little House is, for all of us, for virtually all of us who were a part of it. And it's not true for everybody, but for most of us who were a part of it, it is the top line credit in our lives. Every career has its genesis point or its core point. For that, that for me, no question, that's Little House. And for Melissa, it's Little House too. I think that she would like it to be other things. But at times I've felt that she wanted it to be other things, but I think she knows very clearly that Little House is the core moment of her career. And something that it does define her, defines all of us, but it defines her. She was, as a child, she was spectacular. I think Melissa would stack up against any child actress or actor of any period of time ever. I mean, her her performances are indelibly charming, revealing, innocent, feisty. She had it all going. She was amazing. She really was. And then by the time I'm coming into the picture, Melissa's just turning 15, so she's in that very that very delicate time for a girl becoming a young woman, and I think that she's dealing with all of that. All young women deal with that, but I think Melissa was dealing with it in front of a national television audience, in the full light of the Hollywood publicity machine. Melissa is trying to navigate being a, cute little girl to trying to transition into becoming a formidable woman. It's tough to do at 15, 16 years old. I don't think there probably aren't many young women who are formidable at 15 and 16. She was, quite a presence all the time. But I think in Melissa's later years, as a mother, as an actress, as a president of the Screen Actors Guild, as a candidate for Congress, I think back, I'm going to say 4 years ago, she considered that. I think Melissa has shown herself time and time again to be, a person of consequence, and she's fearless with her opinions. If she feels something strongly, she'll say it. There may be some calculation in it for her, but I think that when she feels strongly about something, that she will write it, say it, without hesitation. I think back to when Melissa wrote her book, Prairie Tale, when she did the chapter about our relationship, and she named the chapter "Holy Shit, They Hired a Man," which was a compliment, definitely a compliment to me. But it spoke very strongly, looking back to that time for her, of what a dramatic age difference we were in at that point. And it was 8 years, 15 to 23. When you're that age, that is a huge spread of years. Today, it's nothing. It doesn't mean anything today. All those years later, but all these years later, but at that time, 8 years was a big deal, and I think it made. Look, I'd had some life experience, although I'd lived a pretty sheltered, low-key life. I came from a very, for the most part, very stable family. I was, I grew up very traditionally in Northern California. I'm a fifth-generation Californian. I was raised in a large extended family, and I knew 4 or 3 generations of my family growing up. I take that back, 4 generations of my family growing up from when I was really a little boy. So there was this big sense of continuity that I had. Melissa was adopted into her family. She was adopted into a Hollywood royalty kind of family. Her her grandfather was Harry Crane, who was a highly respected writer of comedy, certainly in the early days of television, one of the creators of The Honeymooners, among many other credits. So, Melissa had this sense of entertainment heritage around her that was powerful and that she believed in, and she knew she was somebody based on what she was doing, what her grandfather had done. She had a really strong sense of herself. But I was talking about a little bit about us working together. Started to talk about that, and this episode that you note, that Diane, that you noted about the first kiss, which of course the episode was called Sweet 16. It was a big deal for the show. That episode was a transformative moment for the series. It signaled that Laura was going from a little girl in pigtails to being a young woman. It was, the signal for anybody who'd read the Laura Ingalls Wilder books. Sweet 16 was essentially these happy golden years tied up in 1 hour episode. I mean, Michael basically consumed that entire book. Didn't without the marriage, of course, but the courtship, the sort of the romance of the courtship was really handled in the one episode, and from that point forward, they were on the trajectory to being married. It was it was a very fast turn once it happened. I think it was it was a challenging episode for both of us. For Melissa, because Melissa had never been in a relationship before, she'd never dated before, she'd never been kissed before. And so she was being asked to project herself into a circumstance that she really had no life experience for, which was actually perfect for Laura because Laura had no life experience. I mean, when Laura Ingalls Wilder wrote the books, Laura was a very innocent figure, and yet she handled the way Laura wrote it. If you know these happy golden years, she wrote Laura with a great deal of maturity. That is charming and surprising, and I think if you're a young woman, you'd like to be able to have that kind of presence of mind that Laura had in the book, in these happy golden years, when she's dealing with Almanzo and their long drives and the questions and the conversations that they have, particularly the conversation when Almanzo asks her if she'd like to have an engagement ring, and the conversation goes with, well, it would depend on who's offering it to me, and well, if it was me offering it to you, he says, and then she responds, well, then it would depend on the ring, and this is that's very mature, thoughtful repartee back and forth. Now, Laura wrote this at the age of 68 or 9. That's when she is thinking back at this time in her life. So, of course, regardless of how it really happened between Laura and Almanzo, she is able to imbue the conversation with intelligence and wit and judgment and a maturity that a 15, 16-year-old girl I don't know that I'd ever met a 16-year-old girl that had that maturity to be that present for that kind of a conversation. I don't know how I would have handled that conversation if I were on the, being on the asking side of that I would have been as direct as Almanzo was in the way he did that. But that episode, I'm sorry, I'm just digressing like crazy here, but that episode was was, as I said, the turning point moment for the series. And, Laura was never going to sit on Pa's knee again and have conversations that the way she had for all those years in the series. And she was, she was moving on to a life of her own and a husband of her, a man in her life that was not her father. And I think it was a delicate moment for the series. The kiss itself, that is the culminating moment of Sweet 16. I look at that and I wish, as looking at it totally having nothing to do with what was required in the moment in the episode. I wish that I had been able to do that slightly differently, that scene, or somewhat differently. But, when you look at what the series was, where Laura was, it was, and when you look at how the audience is viewing this relationship, I would like to have projected a higher level of maturity in the scene, but that might also have created a level of discomfort for people watching that, because they might have looked at little Melissa or little Laura, opposite a guy who was clearly older than she was, and that might have been uncomfortable. I know we certainly got, I can tell you, we got letters from mothers of young girls who were just saying, these letters were, addressed to Michael. What are you thinking of? Putting Melissa Gilbert with someone who is clearly so much older than she is. This is really creating perhaps uncomfortable conversations in homes around the country, where mothers and fathers have to address this age difference and so on. So the fact that it was played so benignly, I often feel when I look at the scene that I'm playing it younger than she was. And, I could have been 14 in that scene, the way it was played, because it just had to be so benign and sweet and chaste that no one watching it, Michael would never have wanted anyone to be uncomfortable in that moment. That would have been really, really important to him, that no one was uncomfortable. The only person that was uncomfortable, well, Melissa has written about this and spoken about this. She was really uncomfortable during the whole scene. And that was made so much worse by the fact that her mother was on the stage that day behind the camera and bursting into tears or getting hysterical each time the scene wound up to the moment where the kiss was going to happen. She would cry or sigh or make some noise that would wreck the take, and she did this like 4 different times. And I think Melissa was just mortified by this, but by God, she was tough. She just hung in there. I think with the age difference between us, if she had been less confident in herself, in the core of who she was, I think that could have just wrecked her as a young actress. While Melissa was uncomfortable, and clearly she was uncomfortable, she hung in there, and she did the scene, and she got her first kiss ever in the scene, and it was whenever I see it, I go like, I wish I'd done that better. But on the other hand, I've spoken to women who were girls then, but women now, and they look back on it and they assure me that the kiss was well done and that it was sort of a lovely moment. And so I embrace that it was a lovely moment and a nice beginning to the relationship. in terms of how Melissa and I handled the whole relationship at the point of, the marriage and or getting married and then having the relationship. I think I wish, between us, I wish that I had been perhaps a couple of years younger and that she'd been a couple of years older. And I think it would have allowed us to relate to each other on a more personal level. And that's a disappointment that I have, that because you don't get to do this kind of thing every day. To play that kind of relationship that has that sort of iconic a sense of being an iconic kind of relationship. And it was, certainly for a lot of young women at that time, this was who had grown up, loving Melissa as like a sister. This was a big thing for people to watch. I wish we'd been able to play it a little bit more personally than we were able to, but she and I have reflected on it through the years, and we've come to the conclusion that we did okay. That audiences have embraced the relationship. They embraced the two of us together, and I guess that's something that I can feel good about, and that we all can feel good about. Little House is, it's a slice of time that lives on and on for people who love it, and of course new generations of people are finding it. So it does go on and on. And after it was restored in 2014, it was the pictures were restored. It's just more beautiful than it's ever been before, and I think it's going to be around for a long, long time. Michael said years ago when we were working together that the show would outlive all of us. I don't think I necessarily could not have predicted that would be the case. At the time, it was just was mind-blowing to even consider it, that here for me, I'm in my 42nd year of association with Little House now. I just would never have imagined that would be possible. And it's been a great 42 years. It's been one of the highlights of my life. And because of doing things like this, Tammy and Diane, being able to do messages like this for people who love the program is just a continuing affirmation of how loved and appreciated the series was, and how loved and appreciated all of us who worked on it are by people who continue to love and enjoy the program. So that's pretty great. And I mean, what a gift. I'm going to complete my gift to you, Tammy, by lighting a candle and singing you happy birthday. So, and you have to put up with that. But here we go. Happy 51st birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Tammy. Happy birthday to you. Make your wish, Tammy. You're not here to blow out your candles, so I'll blow it out for you. Here we go. Excellent. Happy birthday. Many happy returns on the day. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks to Diane for inviting me to do this. And I hope the two of you continue enjoying Little House through the years. It's something that can just stay with you year after year after year after year. It's always a good friend, and it's always there waiting for you. I'll be there waiting for you whenever you're ready to watch it. Take care. Happy birthday. Bye-bye.